I think I'd like to start with the land acknowledgement today. I'd like to speak it. Are you in the mood?
Close enough that you're hearing yourself through the speakers.
Okay. Would you like to do it? Commissioner Freitas is going to do the land acknowledgement for us.
Okay, so the City of Eureka's land acknowledgement reads, the land that Eureka rests on is known in the Wiyot language as Jarujiji. Past actions by local, state, and federal governments removed the Wiyot and other indigenous peoples from the land and threatened to destroy their cultural practices. The City of Eureka acknowledges the Wiyot community, their elders, both past and present, as well as future generations. This acknowledgement demonstrates the city's commitment to dismantle the ongoing legacies of settler colonialism.
Thank you, Commissioner Freitas. Appreciate it. All right, let's have a roll call.
Commissioner Meyer, Commissioner Benson,
Present.
Commissioner Freitas,
Present.
Commissioner Lazar,
Here.
and Commissioner Kraft.
Okay, we have 3 out of the 5, so we do have quorum to make votes tonight. Let's have a salute to the flag. Commissioner Lazar, will you mind leading us in that? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, let's move right into item C, approval of the minutes for both March 13th meeting minutes and April 10th meeting minutes, so for the last 2 sessions. I'm ready to hear a motion to approve those minutes if commissioners have had a chance to look through them.
Yeah, I'll move that we approve the minutes for the March 13th and April 10th meetings.
I can second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion on these minutes? Any alterations or revisions? Inaccuracies? I didn't see them any. I looked through them earlier today. Okay, let's move to a vote then. All in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. Motion carries. Oral communications. So this is to the folks in the chamber. Thank you for being with us tonight. This is an opportunity for the public to address the Planning Commission on any issues that aren't on tonight's agenda. So if you came with just something to say that you would like heard, this would be the perfect time to step up to the mic and let us know your thoughts on almost anything. Is how this works. There will be opportunities to speak to things on tonight's agenda later. Yeah.
And then you can bring that down so that it's at your height.
Thank you for your help towards me.
Oh, no,
There's not too many people in here. Hi, my name is Natalie Treat. I've been in Eureka since '71. And Eureka has changed a lot. Some for the good and some for the bad. The generation under us are, excuse me, but they are slobs. We have paper all over. I don't know if it's the garbage people. It is some of the cart. When they lift it up, the wind blows it. You know, it just goes on and on. I'm here. I know the government wants us to build apartments. That's true. But the government doesn't say to turn your garage into a living quarters. And it's not for mother-in-laws. It's people like me and you and our children. So I am surrounded by it. And I do another thing is the inspector that goes around and checks us after the buildings. Hey, We had 2 buildings in this community that I know of that the instruction is so bad. One was Redwood Capital Bank on Henderson Center. The other one is on Myrtletown, and there's more. These kids that are working, and some of them are drug addicts. And I think most of us now know when a boy or a man is on drugs. But anyway, he's not doing his job. On my left of my house, it was so bad, the woman that was living there. She threw the baby's diapers out in her backyard. We had rats. When they came out and looked at the house, my minutes are over?
30 seconds.
30 seconds. 3 minutes.
We had rats. Finally, they've cleaned it up. Next door, I call them the 3 castles. Our beloved Mr. Kramer. He did not cut corners and not put the vapor paper on the houses. So they're all the size, is that it? Are falling apart. What's the planning commission? What's the guy that does this? What is he? Where is he? Do I have to come up here and complain about this?
Thank you for expressing your concerns. We've heard you, and I'm sorry, but your 3 minutes are up. But you
Thank
can
you.
submit anything to us in writing.
There is something in writing, but you can look. Oh, if you want to let those people through the garages, pave the streets, the alleys.
Thank you.
That's it. Thank you for letting me speak.
Anyone else like to address the commission? Please come forward, and you will have 3 minutes.
Good day. Thank you for being here. My name is Stacia O'Neill. I'm a 17-and-a-half-year resident of Eureka. I love it here. I moved up from the Bay Area. I'm a transplant from Newport, Rhode Island, which is very historical, and I came to Eureka for the historical value and preservation. I moved into a 132-year-old Victorian, and I spend my life savings, which is very meager because I'm a self-employed caregiver for Alzheimer's patients, maintaining my property. I am in good standing with the city. We pay all our taxes. We're in good faith with the EPT. I always call the police for help in the neighborhood. We don't have any problems with anyone. Today I came to the Chambers in good faith to talk to the design committee, and I was really upset about a project that's being built next to my house. Not that I want it stopped, I just want a design change. And the contractor was in the audience, and he told me to shut the fuck up. Yes, he did. ACGC said that to me. I was so upset I had to leave the Chambers, and my husband was sitting here. I told him not to say anything. We don't do that. As I was getting up to leave the meeting, ACGC spokesman came to us in a threatening manner and told us I was an entitled and privileged because I own a home. I'm not entitled or privileged. I work very, very hard. I'm actually going to leave here and go to my night job. I work 3 jobs. My husband works 7 days a week. We're very, very low class. Low income. After I got home, I saw a city employee sitting in front of my house with a camera. I know Miles, our general manager, and ACGC are very good friends, and if I find there's an intimidation going on, which I feel there is, my lawyer is going to track this down and find this out. This is all public. I want this to be known. I feel threatened, and I feel really worried that I'm not going to get a share break because I'm poor and I don't have influence like ACGC has with the city, and I'm just a homeowner who wants to maintain a life here. I don't want to be displaced. After we got home, we got an offer from ACGC to buy our home. That's intimidation. They also put a smear campaign on the public comments, and they said that our tree is so high it's in the PG line. It's not. It's in the telephone lines, and PG&E and I and my family are in very good relationship. They come and trim it. We trim it. They said that our sidewalk was a mess. That's not untrue. Please come to my property. Please view my property. What they're saying, they're starting a smear campaign, and it's not fair. I'm just a citizen. I deserve a fair break here. I don't have a lot of money to fight this, but I do have a lawyer, and I don't like the thug behavior that's going on. And I just want it to be publicly known that we don't want this. We just want to live and raise our children and go to work. Please help us.
Thank you for your testimony. We are hearing your concerns. Anyone else like to come forward? Okay, let's move to there's nothing under item E, and we're moving into item F, public hearings. The hard drive cyber lounge, we'll be hearing a staff report on that.
Correct. That's Senior Planner Savage. Oh. Derek's doing it for me.
He jumps up and grabs us sometimes.
Good evening, Commissioners. This evening we have an application from Andrew Casperson for a conditional use permit and coastal development permit for the Hard Drive Cyber Lounge at 326 2nd Street. Here is the general project location, which is located in Old Town. Zooming in, the red rectangle shows the tenant space. The subject parcel is located in the middle of the block between D and E streets on the south side of 2nd Street. Opera Alley runs directly behind the building, and the Imperial Plaza pedestrian passageway is located directly to the west of the subject building, which connects Opera Alley to 2nd Street. Here is the storefront looking south from 2nd Street. The applicant is not proposing any exterior changes to the building. The building is on the local register of Historic Places, and any exterior changes would require approval from the Historic Preservation Commission. A condition has been added requiring the applicant apply for Historic Preservation Commission approval if any changes to the exterior of the building are proposed in the future. Here is the proposed floor plan for the first floor, which is roughly 800 square feet and will contain the Internet Lounge. The two-story tenant space totals approximately 1,500 square feet, and the second floor will be utilized for storage, network equipment, and an office space for the owners. The Internet Lounge will rent out computers for use on site, typically by the hour, with games, software, and productivity tools pre-installed on each machine. Initially, there will be 10 high-end computers, 4 consoles, and various miscellaneous machines, such as a custom arcade cabinet and classic game consoles available to the public. The equipment is not intended to be rented off-premise. They plan to sell artisan keyboard accessories and parts, retail merchandise such as miniatures, as well as minimal concessions in the form of prepackaged and self-service food and beverage. They also intend to host events incidental to the Internet Lounge, such as gaming tournaments, birthday parties, and cybersecurity awareness lectures. The hours will be daily, 9 a.m. to 10 p.m., with 2 full-time employees, and in the future they may expand hours. The site has a core retail commercial land use designation, is zone waterfront commercial, and is located in the coastal zone. The conditionally permitted use also requires a coastal development permit. Internet lounges in the CW zone district are not listed as either a principally permitted use or conditionally permitted use. However, Eureka Municipal Code allows for any other use which is determined by the Planning Commission to be similar to the listed permitted or conditional uses in the CW zoning district and which conforms to the policies of the land use plan may be permitted with a conditional use permit. In making such a determination, in addition to the findings prescribed in Article 24, the Planning Commission must find the use has the same essential characteristics as a permitted or conditional use. The use conforms to the purposes of the CW Waterfront Commercial District. The use will not create significantly more vehicular traffic or congestion than associated with permitted or conditional uses. And the use will not negatively affect recreation or visitor serving facilities and coastal dependent uses. And the Internet Lounge meets the above listed criteria as a conditional use. Hence, we are here for the conditional use permit. Finally, a condition has been added to ensure the space will remain inviting and visually interesting from the street. The condition requires the Internet Lounge to maintain and utilize the transparent ground floor storefront during operating hours to support an active and engaging pedestrian environment on 2nd Street, including by ensuring at least 75% of the total glass area remains transparent and free of signage to promote use into the business, and prominently displaying visitor-serving aspects of the business so that they are highly visible to pedestrians on 2nd Street, such as by maintaining inviting window displays that include goods sold on site or by prominently displaying gaming stations open for walk-in customer use. As conditioned, the proposed use will be consistent with the core retail commercial land use designation and waterfront commercial zoning. The characteristics of the proposed, based on the analysis in the staff report, staff believes all the findings can be made to approve the CUP and CDP for the Internet Lounge. Therefore, staff recommends you hold a public hearing and adopt a resolution finding the project is exempt from CEQA and approving with conditions. When you're ready, I can provide the suggested motion, and now I'm available to answer questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Derek. The Wizard of Oz behind the curtain has told me to turn on my mic. Thank you for your planning report, Senior Planner Savage. I'm turning it over to the commission for any preliminary questions we may have.
I just had one about the hours of operation. You said they may expand in future, but they already seemed like they'd be open pretty much all day, every day. So would it be into the evening? Have you
They would
gotten
expand into the evening and have talked, and they can answer more questions later, but have talked about potentially going 24 hours a day.
Okay, yeah, I would definitely be curious to hear more about that. Thank you.
I don't know if I've ever seen us take up I want to make sure I understand this correctly. The code has a provision for if a use isn't land exactly, like if it's not enumerated in one of the areas of the code. So that's the scenario we find ourselves in tonight, right?
Correct.
So what would you say, given the range of uses allowed in the zoning district, the core retail commercial, what would you say the closest use to this, akin to this is, or series of uses?
I honestly could not find one. There's no use, because the code is older, the coastal code, for a use that is computer related. So I couldn't find one that was close. Kristen?
I think there's a telegraph office.
That would be it, yeah.
But is there anything related to like lounges or offices or cafes? I'm assuming those things or some of those are listed uses.
Offices would be a conditional use. Cafes would be a principally permitted use in that area.
Okay, yeah, because that's at least helpful in my mind as a similar type of gathering space, even if, computers are the real reason people decide to come there as opposed to croissants or whatever,
Meeting halls are also a conditional use.
Great. Yeah, that's helpful. Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, let's turn it over to the public for public comment on this project. If you'd like to comment on this, step up to the mic, and you've seen the drill. You get 3 minutes to give your comments.
Hello, my name is Catherine Ziegler. I am one of the co-owners of this business. Sorry for expanding into new territory, y'all. But we thought that given the nature of Eureka, that an internet cafe would be the best choice to help students expand instead of having to use like libraries and things. If they want more sophisticated software or somewhere to be, there isn't really anywhere to be for students except for cafes. And there isn't anything tech related in cafes necessarily besides Wi-Fi, at least in most of the cafes that we've observed around here. And we thought that it would be a good principle to keep in mind to create an internet cafe for people to be. Thank you.
Thank you, Catherine Ziegler, for that. Anyone else from the audience or from the house like to come in?
Hi, my name's John Steiner. My wife and I and our family own the property that this is proposed to be in, and we're in full support of it. We think it's a great addition to our property, and we think it'll fit in well with the other businesses on site. Thanks.
Any other public comments? Anyone online wish to comment on this project?
Not seeing anyone.
Okay, seeing no one in the chambers and no one online, turn it back to the commission for discussion.
I'm wondering if someone representing the project would be willing to come and speak to the potential of expanding the hours. What kind of the phased approach would be for that? That would be helpful. Thank you.
Hello again. We don't really have a planned approach to expanding hours. We were hoping to work with the city when the time comes to expand to potentially 24 hours. We've observed that the only places that are really open until like 2 a.m. are bars and people that are underage that are also still students or just general members of the community don't really like to attend bars or can't legally attend bars. So there isn't really too much of a plan yet. And we were hoping actually to work with everyone here to accommodate that. Does that answer your question?
It does. Yeah. Thank
Okay,
you. That's
thank
really
you.
helpful. Yeah. Way back in the day when I worked at the city of Eureka, there was a project called Next Generation Eureka where staff was trying to understand what local youth kind of wanted from their community, and having a place to go after hours was one of the main things that I remember hearing, in addition to, needing more jobs and more places that felt safe for young people and students. Just having things to do and places to be was a real outstanding issue, because Old Town Coffee and Chocolates, I think, is the only place open in Old Town if you want somewhere to go and you can't legally go to a bar. So from that perspective, I think it definitely makes sense to provide something later in the evening, a safe place for people to go. So thank you for answering that question.
Yeah, I really like that this project has a place for youth to go and people of all ages, but particularly youth, and that there's, modest food service, because I'm a little bit familiar with the gaming community and hours and hours can go by. And so I think it was a germane question about expanding hours, because sometimes people get lost in the gaming world, and suddenly it's 2 a.m. and how did we get here? And so it seems like it's tough to shut down operations if a game is not completed on time. So it'll be interesting to see how that evolves and what the need for that is as your business as that business evolves. I'm also a little curious about there being any kind of cut rates for unhomed folk who don't have a lot of access other than the library downtown, to get online for needs that they have. I know Betty Chin Center and some other places offer some computing resources for jobs and Social Security and other kinds of, SSI and many needs that unhomed folk have to connect. And I'm curious about that use. It's so close to St. Vincent's. I wonder if that will end up being fill part of that need and what some of those concerns might be, in terms of clientele, et cetera, and security and all that. And I'm not making assumptions that the unhomed are less safe than other people, but there's sometimes issues, as we note. Anyway, these are really not questions for Catherine Ziegler at this moment, but just thoughts, when thinking about this kind of a resource, being downtown. But I really support this kind of a business occurring, and it seems consistent with code and the general plan, and can be permitted. Thank you.
Yeah, I had a question about one of the conditions in the resolution, the window display. It seems like we've seen similar language in some proposals. I think maybe the realtor's proposal had something kind of akin to this, and I guess I'd be interested in seeing kind of what the genesis for that is, or kind of the thrust of what we're trying to achieve.
With the offices that have gone in as conditional uses, we've actually had a condition that's required them to have something that's visitor serving in the front. So for instance, the Second and E, the corner of Second and E, that new building, it has a corner first floor office, and they have to have an art gallery or some other principally permitted use in the very front. That seemed overkill for this project because the project has a lot of visitor serving elements to it. It generates foot traffic. It, people off the street could come in. A visitor could use the internet. And so the only concern with it, the big finding in CW is how it's going to impact the visitor serving dynamic. And the only concern is if, for instance, they covered their windows completely, like they'd really have this beautiful transparent storefront. And so we felt like that was the one thing that we wanted to make sure was maintained.
Yeah, and it's sort of baked into the building's design, those elements, those bays that have the, highly visible windows. So it does seem, while the use is, utilizing the space fairly effectively, that's one element that doesn't really dovetail with the type of use, but integrating that in some way, however forced, is, I think it makes sense to some extent.
It was a tricky condition to figure out how to craft because I think there's two different ways to have interest in your window. You can have a window display like artwork, or you can see what's happening through the window. Like if you have a restaurant and you have a table right in the window and you can watch people eating, so we tried to say like either or both is fine, just like an activity or a display.
Yeah, I know there was one when I lived in Arcata on 11th Street. There was a facility in the K Street neighborhood that had, I think it was for gaming, and it kind of had a similar kind of quality to it. And it really wasn't inviting from the outside. It was fairly private, to the extent that I lived right next to it. And I have no idea what it was like inside there because there was no windows. So. I just was curious about what we were trying to achieve there. But otherwise, I think that, we have a lot of vacant property in Old Town right now. We need to use these buildings or we lose them, and finding ways to adapt them to uses that can fit without creating nuisance is important. So I'm supportive in that regard.
Okay. Senior Planner Savage, could we see that suggested motion back up?
Oh, that's me.
Okay.
Or
Director Kenyon.
Just tap to it, no sharing.
I can make the motion. I move the Planning Commission adopt a resolution finding the project is exempt from CEQA and conditionally approving a conditional use permit and coastal development permit to allow an internet lounge use at 326 2nd Street.
I'll second that.
Any further discussion? Okay, let's move it to a vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. Thank you for doing business in Eureka. Lovely to see young people investing, and I'm making an assumption maybe a woman-owned business too, which is awesome. So good luck. Uh-huh. Okay, that's our only public hearing that's new. No old business, no new business. Staff reports and communications. Are we going to hear from staff about something tonight?
Yes.
Okay.
Most importantly, we have a community open house coming up as a kickoff for our mixed neighborhood overlay project. So I'm going to hand you guys some flyers.
Great.
Jessica is going to hand you some flyers. Thanks, Jessica. Thank you. So we're going to have one in-person meeting and one Zoom meeting. We're going to do 2 separate meetings this time on 2 days. So, and they'll be the same content, just in a different format. And we're still working on the specific times, and we'll be sending out an invite soon. And for that project, we hired Dudek, who also is helping us with our waterfront specific plan. And I'm super excited with what they've done so far. So I'm excited for that. Also, last night at council, we had a special meeting from 5 to 6 on the Sunset Heights affordable housing project on city-owned property between Harris and Henderson. And unfortunately, we didn't get many people out and about, but it was really just looking at some site plan options. So I don't think that really grabbed attention the way that renderings do. But City Council gave clear direction on which site plan they preferred. So now they're going to develop renderings, and the next step will be more exciting, I think, for people to see the design and the look of the buildings. Also last night, our Cal Poly Humboldt students that we were a client for their senior capstone, they presented at City Council. They went and walked around Old Town and inventoried all the first floor uses, and they helped with our walkabout that we did with Old Town business and property owners, and they did this really large, extensive report on it, and I can send you guys that report too, but you can also watch the meeting online. This morning we had design review committee, and the first of the housing authority's repositioning projects design was approved for their first. They're redeveloping the first site is just south of Winco, adding a lot of units to one site. So they can move residents in to redevelop the rest of the property. So that's really exciting because they have some very old 1950s housing stock that they're going to improve and increase density. And then the woman who spoke during public comment, what she was referring to was a project that also went this morning, that the design review committee, that was a 5-plex proposal on a vacant lot, and the design review committee denied that project. And you're the appeal body for that. And then
I'll just say I'm going to have to recuse myself on that.
I know, because you live close.
I did.
Yes, I anticipated that.
Will you let us know what the basis was? Can we ask now what the basis for not approving it was?
I'm not prepared to eloquently state it, so but you all can watch the meeting on our, and then, what else did I want to tell you? Oh, we're trying to think of creative ways to get more input for our neighborhood naming project. So if anybody has any ideas, we'd love to hear them. We recently went and talked to some AP U.S. history classes at Eureka High, and some of them are working on getting more feedback for us. But it might be time soon to move to the next stage where we just propose neighborhood names and maybe we'll elicit more responses then.
West Coast outpost story. That's what you need.
Yeah.
That's what'll get you the traction.
We'll call them.
Can you mention, just out of curiosity, some of the candidates that you can remember?
Oh my gosh. There's lots of good ones. My favorite is Harrison Fjord for Harrison Street. Okay. Also, we're working on a new MOU for the Earth Center, hopefully coming to council soon. So hopefully that project will be moving again. And we had a representative of HCD present on the Housing Accountability Act and Housing Crisis Act and how it impacts our local decision-making processes around housing. And that was really informative. And he supplied his PowerPoint, so we're thinking maybe we could do a short presentation for you all on those two acts at some point soon.
Has anyone ever invoked the Housing Accountability Act on a project?
In what sense?
Well, where you have to prompt the decision maker to make very specific findings to deny or approve. Like there's, kind of it narrows the arguments that have to be made by the decision maker to deny a project.
Yeah, that's a good question.
That's where he has the I think it's the 80% moderate or the certain number of very low.
Yeah, no, we haven't had somebody
propose anything.
Yeah. Okay. And we haven't had somebody ask for the streamlining either. I think that's all the updates I was going to tell you all about. So lots of housing related stuff.
Thank you very much, and I'd be very interested, for one, to hear a report on the Housing Act. Yeah, that'd be great. Get more information about that.
Okay. I just had one quick announcement.
Please do.
I just wanted to let folks know that it's Bike Month in the month of May, and it's particularly, I think, a good year for Eureka in that we have the implementation of the H&I Street bicycle infrastructure that is already starting to be used. I used it to ride to my planning commission meeting for the county on last Thursday, and it was extremely convenient. And my office fronts on H Street, and I'm starting to see people starting to see an uptick in the use of the infrastructure. So yeah, it's for the whole month, and trying to at least get out on Bike to Work Day, or at least 1 day or 2 days during the month would be great. Celebrate some of our improvements in bicycle and pedestrian infrastructure.
Commissioner Lazar, what day is Bike to Work Day this year? I can look it up if you don't have it off the top of your head. Yeah. Well, that's a perfect transition to letter J, other reports and communications. The 17th. Look how fast you are. Thank you. May 17th, Bike to Work Day. Okay. Okay, well, I have just a very short report. The county of Humboldt, as many of you probably read or know, received a grant to take a large contingency of Humboldt County folk, from tribes to city managers, to harbor commissioners, to economic developers, et cetera, back east to look at offshore wind development out there at the Vineyard development in New Bedford Harbor, and also offshore off of Nantucket Island. And I was able to go and had many, many questions, and it was Miles Slattery, the city manager, also attended, and it was very informative. 2 days, just about all things offshore wind. But to see it, to conceptualize it, to see slides of it is one thing, but to go and stand next to these things, see them being manufactured both in the shipyards, transported out, out to sea, talking to community people involved in it, talking to tribes impacted by it. It was really great to see what some of the pitfalls were and the advantages and disadvantages from the perspective of the community. It's not welcomed by everyone. It wasn't in our reports, but I did go down to the docks and I saw a number of boats with an offshore wind symbol with a circle and slash through it, and it's not unlike what we're experiencing here. And we all had lots of questions about economic development part of it, about the manufacture, about operations and maintenance, about supply chain, about how these things get recycled and repurposed and reused, and longevity, and all kinds of stuff that I won't go into in any detail right now. But we'll certainly be talking more about that at the Harbor Commission if you want to. That meeting tomorrow night in the Wharfinger, by the way, at 6 o'clock rather than at the Harbor Commission. Because we're going to be looking at passing or considering a resolution on missing and murdered Indigenous people and the impacts of colonization of the coast and big projects like this on the Indigenous community. And so we have a resolution to consider for that if you're interested in that. That's it from me. Any other reports and communications? Okay, let's move right to adjournment at 6:13 p.m.